Hi there everybody, welcome to another video. On today's video I have this Nissan Note 2011 and we're just going to be changing the oil and the oil filter in it. Now this car is a 1.6 and the first thing I did is open this little cap here. This is the oil filter cap, and also I've pulled the dipstick out. So I'm just going to leave those hanging there to allow some air while we drain the oil from underneath and also remove the oil filter. Now if you look at your manual, the engine that I have here is the HR16DE, and this takes 4.6 liters of oil if you replace the oil filter. If you don't replace the oil filter, that particular engine takes 4.4 liters of oil. And your manual will also sort of recommend the viscosity of oil that you can use. I'm gonna be using 5W30 as I normally do, but sometimes they ask you to look at this chart and look at the temperatures, and according where you live, if you live in an area where it's like -30, it's best to use thinner oil. If you live in an area where it's like +40 degrees or above, then it's better to use a slightly thicker oil. I'm gonna stick to 5W30, which is the one that I normally use, which covers a good range of temperatures anyway. So with that said, another thing to mention here, the type of engine that you have. If you look at the manual in the front here, it's got different drawings. Now this is the engine that I have, HR16DE petrol. You have this other one here, the CR14DE. So just look at the drawing here and you can see what engine you have. In my car, this cover here is missing, and then you have this other one here, which is, I think this is the diesel version, and then we have this other one as well. So according to the engine type, engine number here, you can see how much oil it takes. Right, so with that said, I'm gonna get the car up and we're going to drain the oil and remove the oil filter. And by the way, the oil filter I'm using is this blueprint here, ADN 12112. Again, make sure you check the correct oil filter for your car, because different engines will have different filters. So looking at the car from underneath, we have the sump sitting right here, and we have to open this 14mm bolt or sump plug bolt. So crack that open and then you can drain the oil. Just be careful with this oil, it can be very hot if the car's been running, so you can burn yourself, so be aware. And while that is draining, we can also open our oil filter, which is sitting right here. So you most likely will need one of these sockets in order to remove the filter. This is a 65, 67, 14. There's actually like two sizes on this socket, so that will fit in there, and then you can open it. But usually we close this by hand only. So, and when you take this little cover out, this plastic covering, you will find that this is a little bit lubricated with a bit of oil, this O-ring. I still usually put a little bit more of some multi-purpose grease on it. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. Right, let's get the oil filter out. Okay, so the filter that I have here is actually slightly different shape to the new one that I have, so my socket doesn't fit, but we can still use one of these wrenches in order to take that one out. So just luckily we have enough room here for using this wrench. Let me just, right, and make sure your oil pan is sitting below, because oil will drip from here as well. Okay, in this model we have enough room that we can use this wrench, but in other cars, in other models, you haven't really got the room, and therefore you actually need the proper socket to remove this filter. Drain for a few seconds, and there will still be some oil in the filter itself. So just be aware. Okay, this is a Motoquip one. You can see the shape of the on the back of this is slightly different. I'll show you the other one. So this is the other one. It looks slightly different, as you can see, and that's where my socket fits. They do sell the sockets of that other type of filter. However, I normally use this type, so if I ever get the other one, I have to use that wrench. So anyway, now we can sort of just clean the face of where the filter sits. Make sure it's nice and clean and ready for our filter. And the new filter goes in there by hand, and just tighten that also by hand. That's it. And now we're just gonna rinse the area here, because you can see some oil dripped there. I got some brake cleaner here, which is great for rinsing oil. It's always a good idea to leave the area nice and clean the way you found it, and that way in future, if there is any oil leaks, then you can trace them. Okay, and I'm gonna wait for that to still draining a bit of oil. Right, I'm gonna put a new copper washer on that bolt, and we are ready to fit that back. If you don't drop it, you're ready to fit it back. Okay, put it in by hand, and then we're going to tighten that to 30 to 35 Newton meters. I'm just going to tighten it with my ratchet. I'm always doing this, so I know how much to tighten it. I'm just going to rinse this, leave it clean, as we said before. Okay, that is done. Now we can lower the car. We have our sun plug bolt nice and tight, and we have our filter in place, so all is good. Lower the car, put some oil. Time to put some oil in. Got my 5W30 here. I would normally recommend using maybe Castrol oil or Mobile 3000 if you can. So I'm gonna put the oil in here, 4.6 liters as shown in the manual. So I'm gonna use my two hands to put the oil in there. And that's it. got our oil in there. Now we can cover this. Close it. Close our dipstick. Just gonna get the car running. And when you get the car started, just make sure there ain't any warning lamps staying low, especially the oil one. I got a message there that says oil low, but that's because I had no oil obviously earlier on. Now it should start calculating the oil. Right, that was still reading low oil, so I just went to check, and the oil is actually good. Not sure why that is showing oil low. So car is running fine, but I'm still getting this low oil message here, or oil low. So what we're going to do is, I think this needs to be reset basically. But what I wanted to say is, once you start your car, make sure there isn't any oil pressure lights coming on in here. Then go to your engine and make sure that there's no oil coming out of anywhere as such. And then you're pretty much done with the service. So what I'm going to do with this is, let's try to lock the car and unlock the car. Sometimes that resets that oil message there. So where is my keys here? So as usual, I would just recommend making sure your oil filler cap is closed and your dipstick is in place, and have a quick look underneath, make sure there's no oil dripping, and then we can close this bonnet. Okay, let's lock the car. We'll leave it a few seconds and come back to it. Right, I left my window open. Anyway, let's see if that worked or not. Right, I think we may need to leave it for a bit longer. So I'm gonna take the car out and give it a wash while it's locked. Right, it's been about 10 minutes since I locked the car to give it a wash. Now, let's see if this oil thing has resetted or not. Okay, it has. So it says oil good now. So I never really had this happen to me before, and the reason I may have got that message is because while I was draining the oil and doing the service, I actually got the ignition on because I was fixing something else. I was fixing the jets for the windscreen washers, and while I was testing that, I needed the ignition on. At least I got this working. But that's probably why I got the oil low message. But if you get the same, then lock the car, leave it for about 10 minutes or so, just over 5 minutes, and then it goes to normal. So anyway, having said that, I hope the video helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all in the next video. So thank you for watching.